Let's talk about tips and home buying etiquette on this episode of Winnipeg's Real Estate Podcast.
You're listening to the Bo Knows Real Estate Podcast. Tips and advice for home buyers, sellers, and owners with award-winning RE/MAX agent, BoKauffmann.
All right, welcome to this episode of Winnipeg's Real Estate Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about some tips and etiquette for home buyers to follow. What do I mean by that? So you're looking at houses, and likely on a Saturday afternoon, let's say you're going to go out and look at 4 or 5 houses back to back with your agent. Call that a home viewing tour. And today we're going to talk about tips to make that whole tour go a little smoother, a little less troublesome, just make the whole experience a little bit better for you, the buyer, but also some etiquette and some rules to follow. Because as a buyer in this hot seller's market, you want to stand out for the great offer you make, not for the rules you break. Sounds like a song in there. So we're going to break this episode down into 3 different sections. The first one is going to be what to bring and wear during these home showings. Second one is going to be what not to bring, what not to do. And the third one is how to act once you're inside the house. So let's get going. All right, so remember, it's like, let's say a Saturday afternoon, you're going to look at 4 or 5 houses in a row. And this first tip is really helpful in the winter. Wear comfortable shoes you can slip on and off real easy. If you got these big mucklucks that tie up halfway to your knee, you'll spend a lot of time taking them off and putting them back on going from one showing to the next. So wear comfortable slip-on shoes. Next, bring a pen and pad. Now, each listing will probably have a listing sheet waiting for you, so you can grab that, but there's always going to be questions or things that aren't on there that you might want to mark down for yourself. If you're looking at 5 houses in a row, it's easy to get them all mixed up. You end up forgetting which one needed the new bathroom upgrade or which one had the really ugly floor here or there. So it's good to mark that down. So bring your own pen and pad. And last, bring a mask and sanitizer. Yes, COVID is still a thing. And remember, you're going into other people's houses, so we are still expected to wear masks because people live there and there's showings after us. So once inside, you're going to be touching the fridge, you're going to be touching doorknobs, closets, stuff like that. Plus, there was people there before us, so you might want to sanitize going in and coming out. Up next, we're going to talk about what not to do.
We'll be right back after this short announcement.
This episode of Winnipeg's Real Estate Podcast is sponsored by Urban Top Coat Paint and Design, bringing quality fine finishes to your home. Whether you're planning to sell, have just settled in, or looking for a robust color refresh, Urban Top Coat Paint and Design has your home covered. There's quality in their hands, and they leave it in their work. Call Rob White today at 204-791-8024.
All right, so let's start with some of the things that not to do. Leave the food and the drinks in the car. Let's say you picked up a cup of coffee on the way to your showings, or a sandwich or a bun or a hoagie. Leave those in the car. Don't bring food into somebody else's house. Now, I can hear the eyeballs rolling. Oh my God, Bo, why are you telling us that? It's because it's been done, and then coffee gets spilled, and it's not a good thing. Next is keep the viewing group small. Now, if you're a young couple, chances are you want your parents' approval. Maybe they're even putting money in, for the down payment. They definitely want to have a look at the house, and I encourage that. In fact, if we're looking at 20 houses, I would encourage that you bring all decision makers to as many of the showings as possible. Because the last thing we want to do is get into a situation where we looked at 20 houses, you like one, and you bring your parents back for like an approval, and they haven't seen the other 19, and they go, oh my God, this house is $400,000? No way. Well, it's a good thing to have them along for the other viewings as well, so that they get a sense for the market. Having said that, if you're a young couple, you likely have 2 sets of parents. Maybe you have an uncle that's knowledgeable, in construction, and you want to bring your sister along for approval too. Before you know it, there's 8 or 10 of us going into a showing, and that becomes unmanageable. You see, your agent is responsible for that house for the entire time that you're in there. And ideally, your agent will keep the whole group together. That way, when the homeowner complains that something's damaged or something's missing, your agent can honestly say, well, look, my whole group, I was with them the entire time. So you can imagine if there's 8 of us and 2 people go up to the second floor, 2 go into the basement. Obviously, you lose control over that situation. Bring the decision makers, but keep it as small as possible. In fact, during the height of COVID, there were many listings which specifically said only 3 people into the house at any one time. That is the buying couple and their agent, period. They weren't allowing kids in. Now, some of these things have changed and some of the rules have relaxed. There's still a limit. So keep the groups manageable. Which brings us to the next one. Leave the kids at home. Look, let's talk honestly here. Your 3-year-old is not going to decide whether or not you like the house. Maybe your boy or your girl hate the house. You're still going to buy it. So when you have 1 or 2 kids along, it is just another pair of shoes to put on and take off. It's another hand to hold on to, because you do have to keep control of your child. And if you go into a bedroom, like a seller's child's bedroom, and there's toys there, guess what? Your kid wants to play with them, and they can't. Children want to jump on furniture or jump on beds. And every time you say no, they start getting a little less interested in looking at more houses, because they can't go play in these things anyway. So I've had situations where by the third showing, by the third house, one of the parents had to stay in the car with the 3-year-old while the other parent looked at the house and had a quick look, and then went and tagged off so that the second parent can come look at the house. Very cumbersome. It interrupts the whole flow. It interrupts the showing. Best leave the kiddos at home with a sitter, with a parent, with a neighbor. And if you need to, hey, make me the bad guy. Just tell them the agent won't, the agent doesn't allow it. But it makes for a whole better viewing experience. Funny story here. Well, it's funny now. It wasn't at the time. I had a listing up in Amber Trails, so I was representing the seller, and an agent called to book a showing. Now, I don't meet the agent. I certainly don't know who his buyers are, but they booked a showing for, let's say, a Saturday at 2 o'clock. So my sellers leave the house. The agent goes in. My sellers came home at a reasonable time, like almost 45 minutes later, but the people were still inside. So my sellers hung back, they stayed in their car, and they watched everybody come out. So after it was all done, my sellers called me and said, Bo, the front door opened, the agent comes out, and after that it was like a circus clown car. About 10 or 11 people came out. To make matters worse, the seller goes inside and finds that somebody's been laying on their bed, on their marital bed. Ew, you don't do that. So I called the agent, the buyer's agent, expecting that maybe the kids had jumped on the bed. Turns out no, one of the uncles thought it was a good idea to lay down on somebody else's bed. So again, keep groups small, keep the kids at home, and it makes for a better viewing time, better showing time all around. And last, speaking of time, be on time, because showing times are limited. So if you've got a showing window from 10 till 10:30, that's your entire window. So if you only show up at 10:15, you're only hurting yourself. You're cutting back your showing by 15 minutes, because at 10:30, somebody else will be knocking on the door and wanting to come in. So be on time, keep the groups small, and when we come back, we'll talk about what we can and can't do inside the house.
We'll be right back after this short announcement.
This episode of Winnipeg's Real Estate Podcast is sponsored by Mike Schroeder of Mortgage Architects. If you are serious about buying a home, then contacting a mortgage specialist is an important step. Mike can explain your options and let you know exactly what you can afford. This will save you time by making sure you are shopping within your budget. Call Mike Schroeder today at 204-229-3214.
All right, so now we've entered the house. Hopefully we're the only ones in there, you and your agent. First thing you do, definitely take shoes off. Unless the house is an entire, something that has to be torn down, keep your shoes off. If you have to, perhaps the basement is unfinished, it's got concrete floor. Yes, you can carry them up to the basement and walk down there. But throughout the house, definitely keep your shoes off. So in the summertime, it's a good idea, especially ladies, if you wear slippers or something like that, and you take them off, all of a sudden now you've got bare feet, you're walking on hardwood floors and you're leaving your sweaty footprints on somebody else's. So you might want to take some socks that you put on. Next, once you're inside the house, everything that's included in the listing is fair game. So you can open the fridge, open the stove, check inside the dishwasher. If the washer dryer are included, absolutely, you can open them. Open cupboards, doors, kitchen drawers, stuff like that. Just not dresser drawers. Don't jump on the bed, don't open night tables, that kind of thing. Just stuff that is included in the sale. As mentioned earlier, keep control of the kids and avoid toilet use. Now, I understand that emergencies do happen. For example, you've got a pregnant lady and it's just, you got to go when you got to go. But sellers really frown upon somebody using their toilet and then, heaven forbid, leave it messy. Again, it's happened. Try and make a pit stop in between the showings or do everything you need to do before the showings start. But toilet use is frowned upon. Same with washing your hands. Of course, if you've used the toilet, please wash your hands. But other than that, just using the facilities in any way is not a cool thing. And lastly, it's always a good idea to leave the house in exactly the same condition as the way you found it. If you walk into a room and the light was off and you turn it on, please turn it off on your way out. Opening closet doors, please close them again. I've had sellers quite upset that when they came home, all the closets were left open. So please just leave the house exactly the way you found it. Well, I hope you found these tips helpful. Make your next showing tour or viewing tour a little bit less stressful because it is a stressful market to begin with. And like I said, you want your offer to stand out. You don't want your actions to mark you as somebody the seller doesn't want to do business with.
Check out Winnipeg's Real Estate Podcast with weekly market updates, news, and advice for home buyers and sellers. Produced by award-winning agent BoKauffmann of RE/MAX Performance Realty. Available on all major podcatchers, including iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more. Find them at boknows.homes/podcast. Missing an episode could be hazardous to your wealth.
Are you looking to buy a house or a condo in Winnipeg? Work with the agent who takes the time to explain the process to you, guiding you through every step. For service beyond the sale, book your home buying consultation with BoKauffmann of RE/MAX Performance today. Bo knows real estate.
You've been listening to BoKauffmann of RE/MAX Performance Realty. Are you thinking of buying or selling a house or a condo in Winnipeg? Call Bo at 204-333-2202. Remember, Bo knows real estate.